This is the University of Montreal, the biggest university in the city with almost 70,000 students. If you want to get downtown from here by transit, maybe for a conference or a class at another university, or to catch a train connection at Central Station, you're looking at a roundabout trip on 2 or even 3 metro lines. There are some buses too, depending on where you're going, but they usually require more walking or waiting than the metro. All of this is changing with Montreal's biggest transit expansion in decades. But not everyone has been totally happy. This new section of train converted, some would say cannibalized, an old commuter rail line that had been serving people for more than a century. Was it worth it? You might remember the first section of the REM opened in 2023, connecting Central Station to the South Shore suburbs. Super exciting to step foot on a new system, but it was only 5 stations. Now in 2025, the Jumontaing branch is opening with 14 more stations. That'll give the system 31 kilometers or 19 miles of extra reach. There's still more to come in the next few years. One branch to the suburban West Island and another to the airport. Honestly, the airport connection can't come soon enough. We actually missed a flight recently because the airport bus is so bad, at least in rush hour. But this expansion gives us the core of the system, and has to be the most exciting of all the openings. So, the REM is an automated light metro. Think the Vancouver SkyTrain, Honolulu Skyline, or Copenhagen Metro, but in the large, snowy metropolis of French Canada. Some people call it light rail, but that's not the best term. LRTs typically run in the street or at least have some crossings. But the REM runs fully separate from traffic like a subway or a metro. The trains being smaller and shorter than a typical metro is why we can call it a light metro. The REM is being built by the CDPQ, the profit-driven public pension fund of Quebec. In American terms, imagine if Social Security was allowed to save money and invest. And then it picked not just stocks and real estate, but it bought and built infrastructure projects, all with the goal of making a return and adding to your pension. This newly opened branch of the REM now links all 3 major metro lines together in the middle of downtown. That makes the metro more useful, especially the lesser used Blue Line. There are so many better trips that this opens up. The University of Montreal and its dense surrounding neighborhood can now go directly under the mountain to downtown. That means getting to McGill or Central Station on 1 train instead of 2 or 3. And it's obviously a game changer for so many students commuting to those universities from any direction that doesn't have a metro line. The University of Montreal REM connection is here at Edouard Montpetit Station. It's the deepest station in the country at 20 stories underground. It's only accessible by elevator, but the elevators are surprisingly fast. The station even features the surrounding rock as if it was art, which looks pretty cool, and reminds you that you're under a mountain taking a train. The REM also takes pressure off the metro. The new riders in the upcoming Blue Line extension will have the option to transfer to the REM to go downtown, instead of switching on to this overcrowded section of the Orange Line, and maybe transferring again here at the busiest station in the system. The REM still has its critics and complainers. Some people don't like elevated trains. Others aren't comfortable with the CDPQ taking over some responsibility for transit planning. This part of the line has its own controversy. While other branches are new routes, this one was an old commuter rail line, and a relatively good one at that. It was electrified, had above average service, and overperformed on ridership. It gets 7 million passengers per year, out of the 20 million total across the XO commuter train system. Then it got converted or cannibalized, depending on your perspective, to become one important section of the REM. Okay, I get it. It's a bummer that the commuter rail line that could upgrade it to the REM was the most functional of the 6. And if the old line worked for you, having it be out of service for 5 years must have really sucked. But it's still unambiguously a big upgrade. A good commuter rail line by Montreal standards doesn't mean that much. It means you get a train every hour or 2 on the weekends. This is the town of Mount Royal, built 100 years ago around the rail line. This is old school TOD. For weekdays under the old commuter rail, people here got a train roughly every 15 to 30 minutes in the peak direction at rush hour, and 45 to 60 minutes off-peak. Compare that to the REM. When the full system opens, the plan is for a train every 2.5 minutes in rush hour, or 5 minutes off-peak. That's not just pretty good for North American commuter rail, it's actually good. Now, the frequencies aren't going to be quite that high once you split off into the suburban branches, but the far end of the commuter rail line didn't get all the trains either. And the 2 other branches to the West Island and the airport didn't even exist in the commuter rail. Those are completely new. I could go on about how the REM is so much better. Those 2 new metro connections didn't exist in the commuter rail. It went downtown to Central Station, but not to McGill or the University of Montreal. All of the old commuter rail stations were replaced. No more simple platforms exposed to the elements. These are all modern, fully accessible, weather-protected structures. Say goodbye to level crossings. The commuter train crossed many roads. The REM crosses none. It's no bright line in Florida, but commuter trains have been involved in collisions, and even deaths here. Fully separating from traffic and pedestrians means better safety and reliability.
The other option if we didn't build the REM would not be to do nothing and be happy with that one electrified line. It would be to electrify more commuter rail lines and expand the system. This basically puts you on a path towards the grand urban train systems of Europe, like the S-Bahns of Germany, but there are some major barriers there. The Deux-Montagnes line was special and relatively good because it was owned by the public transit operator, but that's not the case with most of the rest of Montreal's rail system. European cities took decades to build S-trains and RER, and that was usually largely just the tunnels through the city centers. In the case of Montreal, you'd be starting without any serious passenger trains to speak of. If EXO were meant to become a European-style regional train system, you'd have to basically rebuild everything from the stations to the tracks to the signals and add electrification. But the thing is, it's not clear that that's the sensible approach to take in the 2000s when you're starting from basically zero. You see, a light metro makes it more practical to build on elevated guideways and in smaller tunnels, and to transition between the remaining strips of land and rights of way you can pull together in a city that just didn't form and crystallize around developed passenger railways the way you see in Europe. You could build new conventional passenger rail lines, but if you wanted to build them away from existing freight lines, it would be a lot pricier than the REM, with wider curves, bigger tunnels, and the like. The stations, a huge part of the cost of building such a system, would also be way larger and much more expensive, because the model of the Paris RER or the Berlin S-Bahn is relatively low frequency in the suburbs and high frequency in the center. But that model might just not make sense when you have to build all of the stations at very high prices from scratch. Toronto provides a natural counterfactual. Unlike in Montreal, Metrolinx in Toronto has been able to buy up a ton of rail lines and does plan on upgrading the regular trains. But we've already seen disappointment and that's a lot easier said than done. For one, it's super expensive and delay-prone because we haven't built a lot of rail systems like this in Canada, North America, or in the world, frankly. And I think people underappreciate that. But the unique set of conditions, whether that be the platform heights, or the electrification standards, or the rail operating rules we have in this jurisdiction, just don't exist anywhere else in the world. And wholesale adopting them from another country is much harder than you think. With so many existing property owners and railways and just different stakeholders, you can't just hire a CDPQ to come in and build it. At the same time, while service is gradually improving, we'd be lucky to see REM-level service by 2050, or trains every 5 minutes on the Lakeshore route. Yet trains will be running every 5 minutes from Montreal's South Shore under Mount Royal to the North Shore today, and with screen doors and nice automated trains. And that's really the rub. The REM is a scalable, repeatable, and frankly pretty low-cost regional rapid transit project. If it gets busy and convinces voters to send more tax dollars to transit instead of roads, well, then Montreal can build another one and another one, all before Toronto finally manages to land at European-level conventional train.
Maybe the biggest disconnect I have with critics of the REM is this. I feel like I have a very strong bias in favor of transit actually getting built, especially if it's good transit, and a lot of the complaints feel like small fish in comparison. Would it be better for transit planning to happen under one authority? I don't know, maybe. I get the argument. But ultimately, it just doesn't matter as much to me as getting good transit built. Does it hurt a little that the least bad commuter train is the one that got upgraded? Sure. But again, good transit getting built. This is why the REM de l'Est saga remains so frustrating. The CDPQ wanted to build another automated metro in the underserved east end of the city, but the government said no, after outcry from some residents' groups over mainly aesthetic concerns. What hurts is not just that the project is being downgraded to a less useful tram, although it is. It's that the project is much less likely to happen at all. We replaced a great transit project ready to go with an okay transit project that'll happen much later, if at all. Seeing the REM open and be so obviously good should make us frankly embarrassed that we said no to more of this. This is a kind of transit project that I want more of. Thanks to Reece Martin for his help on the video. Formerly of RM Transit on YouTube, he now writes a Substack called Next Metro. If you want to learn more on the interesting model behind the REM, check out this series by Montreal YouTuber Paige Saunders. And a special thanks to our supporters on Patreon, as always.